This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
I'm Bob Joseph, and you're listening to News Radio WNBF. Stand by, Binghamton Now. WNBF. Indeed, stand by for news and talk. 607-772-1290. It is Thursday, December 12th, 2024. And if you've been a good listener, you can expect good gifts. If you have been a not-so-good listener, your gifts are likely to be not so good. So think about that. This point of the year, there's probably not much you can do to change your official designation. Probably your, how shall we put it, your actions over the past 11 months will contribute significantly to the quality of your gift. The type of gift you will receive could be very, very good if you've been a very, very good listener and caller. And then for others, of course, you still will get a gift. Policy is gifts. Gifts will be given. Although some of you in that latter category, sadly, these may, as they say, be at the bottom of the barrel. 607-772-1290 here at WNBF. Looking at the New York Times, for some reason it feels extra hefty. I know, you're saying, but who reads the newspaper anymore? Well, I do. Let's see, New York Times, December 12th. Trump breathed life into choice at Defense Department, seen as test of power. Prospects of Hegseth are salvaged even amid personal scandals. So, looks like they've decided Pete Hegseth is going to be the winner. The winner. After it's been a fun couple of weeks, hasn't it? As we look into the allegations, the insinuations, and even potential character assassinations. It looks like Pete Hegseth will prevail, unless something else develops between now and the Senate confirmation vote. So, this is the lead. Jonathan Swan and Maggie Haberman teamed up for this. Dateline Washington, just last week, Pete Hegseth was twisting in the wind. I like that as a lead. Just last week, Pete Hegseth was twisting in the wind. President-elect Trump had made a choice to lead the Pentagon. He was battered by damaging headlines, drinking, extramarital affairs, an allegation of sexual assault, which he denied. Anyway, that's how the story starts out. So apparently, people at the New York Times thinks he has prevailed. So we'll see what other scandals might emerge. So that's the top story of the New York Times. Let's see, story about immigrants, a story about Sudan, a story about Luigi Mangione, a story about real estate stars and brothers who face some serious charges, and a story about an elite school and the criminal it welcomed. So, see, the New York Times, you may not like it. In fact, there are a lot of people who are not fans of the New York Times, but you have to admit, whether you appreciate their style of journalism, sure is a lot of it. In a time when other newspapers have basically given up, the New York Times is still pushing forward, trying to get it done. Let's take a call, 914. Good morning. Congratulations, you're caller number one. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
It's John from Binghamton, and thank you for taking my call.
Well, thank you. First-time caller, long-time listener.
Yes, I've been involved in calling radio talk shows probably since I was 7 years old, maybe.
Did you ever call Herb Jepko?
No, I didn't. The first, it was actually a television program. The first one I called, I was about 7 or 8 years old, and Mayor John Byrne Sr. was having a live call-in show on Channel 40, and I called. That was my first one.
Who was the anchor or moderator of the show? Do you recall?
Jeepers. It would be too early for Don Webb, and it wasn't Bob Culling. So that's a good question.
Too early for Scott Dilliard.
Generally in the time of, it was even before John Bartholomew Tucker. So this had to be somebody out of the press newsroom. Yeah.
What about Tom Cawley? Is it possible? Because Cawley did some TV.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it was Tom Cawley.
All right.
You're right.
Yeah.
Because it would be before urban renewal. That was what the question was on.
Well, what a nightmare. Yeah. What a nightmare. And even now, Johnny, they're still not done tearing down quality buildings here in downtown Binghamton. I thought urban renewal was over, but it turns out the willingness to tear down buildings that are over a century old, hey, basically, if you got the money, go for it.
Well, it's like, how long does it take them? The Addams Family Mansion there by the Boys Club. You figure, that's going to come down. It hasn't. There's a multifamily property across from Binghamton High School on Oak Street there that's dilapidated. The IDA was going to do something with that, and that
why don't they call the land banks? The land banks and the IDA should cooperate together, because I could come up with a list probably of at least 5 or 10 other buildings in downtown Binghamton or near Center City that really probably ought to be torn down to make way for more parking or maybe space for a speedy stand.
Well, what's interesting is your eyes get used to a certain level of blight, right? For example, every year I go to the St. Mary's Bazaar, right? So you know what it looks like, and you go year after year, and it looks like it's holding its own. And then all of a sudden, one year you go, and it's almost a complete change. The Stadium District is all what they call the Stadium District. That was so it's
on the bright side. On the bright side, nothing's burned down in the Stadium District in a few weeks. So, of course, as the temperatures plummet, the risk of Stadium District properties succumbing to suspicious fires probably increases, because I think I know of at least 2 buildings in Binghamton's emerging Stadium District that are occupied by people not authorized to be there. Especially with the cold snap coming up, with temperatures plummeting into the teens over the next few days, I wouldn't be shocked that there could be potential problems with some of those Stadium District properties.
Well, it's a serious problem, and the city and the county have made absolutely no moves to build a shelter. There's a shelter going up in Tompkins County, or being planned to go up.
Well, that's another thing. The plan last year for a warming center was shot down because some people in the first ward didn't want people to be able to stay warm in that building on Charles Street in the basement. They were talking about 40 beds. It wasn't going to be a permanent shelter. It was, if the temperature dropped, I think, below freezing, they would open the doors so people wouldn't freeze to death, but that was unacceptable.
Here's the problem. The county's got to do it. It has money, because it's paying hotels. So it has money to build a very nice homeless shelter somewhere and forego all the expense.
I say Riverside Drive.
Yeah.
I was going to actually give a swath of Riverside Drive specifically where the homeless shelter could be built by Broome County, but I don't want you-know-who mad at me.
Well, a lot of the nonprofit CEOs live in Endwell and Appalachian in that area. So I would say that we find the 3 or 4 biggest nonprofit paid people, CEOs, and we locate the homeless shelter somewhere equidistant between their household.
Maybe in their backyard. Some of their, I'm familiar, again, because of HIPAA, I won't name names because I want to respect their privacy, but I am familiar with some of the residential properties occupied by some of the people you're referencing, and I say they have plenty of room on their properties to construct a decent size homeless shelter, and it wouldn't even interfere with their lifestyle because for the most part they're not even using I would say 90% of their property.
Yeah, I mean, here's the tragedy of all this. Broome County wants the Enjoy Golf Course. It wants a golf course, but it doesn't have a homeless shelter. Doesn't have a juvenile hall, by the way, Bob. And, the tremendous expense. Every juvenile has got to go to Syracuse. It's a 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 with a driver, a deputy to drive them up there. Yet we don't have a juvenile hall. We also don't have a morgue, Bob. So I think that all this other stuff that the county's involved in, the office space at the Oakdale Commons, really is not a poor priority list. By the way, speaking of economic development, I filed a FOIL request with the IDA, and I wanted to look at their correspondence that they would have with Boscov's. And guess what? From January 1, 2024 to 2 days ago, the IDA has not one piece of paper, not one email, not one progress report. They have no documents concerning Boscov's this year. So that shows you how hard they're working on Boscov's.
Well, I continue to offer my encouragement to the people directly and indirectly related to the Boscov's department store in Binghamton. I am pleased that they're part of Mr. Joseph's neighborhood, sort of on the fringe of my neighborhood. We can wait a long time for Binghamton to come back. Oh, Bob, I was at the emergency room last night. Oh, no.
First time, of course, it was a miserable night.
Yeah.
First time that I saw the UHS facility, I couldn't believe it.
Isn't it? Is it still? I was there on day one. I was the only journalist who actually showed up there at 4:55 a.m. a few months ago when they officially opened the doors for the. Now, I didn't go into the emergency department. I was just at the front entrance of the new main tower. But and that's the only time I've been there. I haven't been in for any medical treatment yet. But what's your impression?
Well, you look at that building, you say, okay, that's a nice building. And when new hospital additions open up, they pimp them up. They've got plants and good furniture, and the place is clean, right? Well, you go into the subterranean level. You go down into the thing, and there is the parking lot. Of course, 2 sheriff's vans were there bringing the inmates for their medical treatment because the county has trouble providing a contractor for in-house, medical treatment. And the spaces are very narrow. You go, the door is not open. You have to hit a button on one of those cameras, and then somebody asks you what you want, and you come into another vestibule. And there's somebody behind a very thick glass wall that asks you what you want to do, and then you go in. Well, it is a very small waiting room relative to the size of the place. There's only a few, there's no furniture there. There's just sort of, chairs, a few, and not many, maybe 6, 8 chairs. There's no couch. There's no plants. There's no nothing. And then there's only 2 windows to go to for service. So yesterday I went there, and it is like one of the levels of Dante's Inferno.
Do they have any kiosks so you can check yourself in? Have they used any of the techniques that the major supermarket and fast food chains are now using so you can enter your information and then on the kiosk screen push basically what kind of services you would like today?
No, but there is a big sign, all hospitals have it now, dealing with the customer, the patient's behavior. Not dealing with the staff's behavior, but solely right when you walk in, they blame the customer,
Well, what's the essence of the sign? Because it sounds like I might need one of those signs here for the radio studio.
I've seen this at Guthrie and Sayre. It looks like the same sign that they have. It warns the patient about behavior, what you can and cannot do, and what you will be immediately ejected for and prosecuted for. And, so anyway, apparently one of the patients didn't heed the warning because the poor woman, it was a scream that I can't describe. So when I'm checking myself in, and over and over and over again, and she was mumbling something and then screaming, she had somebody with her. She wasn't unattended. And I in the middle of, going through the process of signing in, I stopped. I said, I can't take it. I've got to go someplace else. Maybe I'll go to Towanda, to the one of the most beautiful hospitals in America, but I'm not staying here.
Supported by that good fracking funding, right? That's
yeah.
Thanks to the miracle of fracking, and maybe that actually is going to ultimately save the southern tier. A lot of people still think that the fracking issue, high volume hydraulic fracturing, think the issue has been settled in New York State. I'm part of the minority. I don't think it's settled. It's settled for today. There's not going to be fracking today in the Marcellus Shale in New York State. But I can't believe at some point the same people who approved selling copious quantities of marijuana after decades of prohibition, I can't believe that the same people who gave approval to marijuana sales and sports betting aren't going to at some point say, what are the other untapped sources of revenue for the state and local governments? Oh, I know. It's the natural gas in the southern tier. And people will say, but Andrew Cuomo, no, not the governor, was actually his DEC commissioner and his health commissioner, wink, wink, who had to make the announcement that there wasn't going to be fracking here. But I think because money talks in New York State, I actually think there's going to be fracking here. And I think that ultimately could help pay for new hospitals. I was looking, John, at the debate over a new hospital for Western Broome in eastern Tioga County. That debate was raging 50 years ago because they were considering the future of Ideal Hospital in Endicott on High Avenue, no less. So can you imagine at some point they say, well, Western Broome and eastern Tioga County actually probably deserve their own hospital, albeit 50 years late. And then they could say, I know, why don't we approve fracking for the next 10 years with a sunset so they can make sure they get plenty of campaign contributions at the end of the decade to see if it's renewed. And then they could support a nice new hospital for about in Endwell. I know a spot in Endwell where they could put the new hospital.
The biggest trend in hospitals, and you'll see them in Texas, are these mini hospitals, these micro hospitals. They've got full trauma, full everything in the ER, and they have 50 beds, 52, maybe 70 beds. They're all over the country. That's the future of
Are they
hospitals.
Private operations? Are they franchised?
Sure. No, they're private operations.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's not like it's a new division of McDonald's where McDonald's, actually McDonald's and CVS should join forces together along with some I don't know, United Healthcare, and come up with like a franchise model for those micro hospitals.
Well, yeah, and I mean it's like I say, it's a full ICU type thing.
Yeah,
So
sounds like there would be money to be made in that.
well, sure, because again, when you go to these large teaching hospitals, it's not a pretty picture. And this is another thing that Broome County needs, that it should reopen state mental institutions, because what in my mind, and I've seen this several times when I've been in the emergency room, the disruptors are the people with mental problems, and these are aggressive, dangerous, potentially dangerous at least, patients. And they're there, and their needs come ahead of those that are suffering tremendous physical health emergencies. So we need to segregate the mentally ill people from the people with physical ailments. I mean, it's tough to go into the emergency room when you've got pains and you don't want to go because it's aggravating, but yet you go. So I would just suggest this to anybody. Get in, call the ambulance. Don't fool around with that waiting room.
Yeah, the problem, though, is right now there is a serious shortage of ambulances in Broome County. At times, no rigs are available. As they say, they're at level 0. So here's the bad thing. I mean, it is nice that we live, or many of us live in areas that have ambulance services and fire medics that are relatively close at hand. But the problem is sometimes if they're at level 0 and you really need, and you know what I mean when I say you really need instant help and get a truck to haul your butt into whether it's Riverside Drive or Main Street in Johnson City. If they have no buses available, you're there, you're in limbo until one becomes available. I mean, sometimes they're going to have to call, say if something were to happen to you, John, over on the west side, and Binghamton's fire ambulances are tied up, Superior's tied up, Broome, a volunteer, is tied up. So they could have to, and they do sometimes, need to get a rig from Binghamton University, Harper's Ferry, or it could be Union Volunteer. You never know. Or even Shenango. You never know in Binghamton who is going to show up when you're potentially, I can't say it delicately, when you really need to go. I mean, John, I saw there was a shooting in downtown Binghamton this year, and I think the first, well, I'm not sure if it was the first rig, one of the rigs that responded to a shooting in downtown Binghamton was Shenango Ambulance. So it just goes to show we have a serious crisis here. Well,
we certainly do, and the financial health of these balance sheets of the two hospitals that we have now and the hospital there in Cooperstown are very, very tenuous. And ultimately, we're looking at Pittsburgh coming up to the border, and we're looking. I don't know who's going to pick up the slack in Cooperstown because things aren't going well in Albany. And again, it's Jackie Mason said it's the service economy, except they forgot about the service. Well, that's healthcare today. It's unrecognizable from what it was even 5 years ago. It makes you just want to sit home and die.
Well, no. Anyway, I'm glad that you got through the night and are able to call in. Will you be available tomorrow for contributions to tomorrow's program?
Let's hope so, Bob. Let's hope so.
Well, same here. I hope I'm here tomorrow to contribute to tomorrow's program. But you know what they say, never take it for granted.
If they'd only stop with that voodoo doll at the county office building in the town of Vestal, maybe I'd get in better health.
I think they've got two voodoo dolls, and one has your name on it, and the other has my name on it.
Well, we'll handcuff them.
30 minutes. No, 24 minutes into the program, and we're talking about voodoo dolls. So now you know the rest of the story. It's Bob Joseph. Happy Thursday at you. As they say, Thursday. It's Thursday. Don't you love it when people say Thursday? It's Thursday. At WNBF Binghamton now, more calls may be accepted at 607-772-1290. We're on the air live, 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, and streaming at WNBF.com. WNBF station where it's at. That's where your dial may be at, 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, or maybe it's where your device is at, WNBF.com, or maybe you're enjoying us via the WNBF app, which is now more popular than ever, as thousands and thousands of people enjoy a better life and a better overall existence thanks to the free WNBF app. Here's the forecast from the National Weather Service. Everything is settled down compared to yesterday. Partly sunny today, a slight chance of snow showers this morning, high 29. Partly cloudy tonight, low 16. Sunny tomorrow, high 26. And sunny Saturday, high 32. Right now, it's 28 in downtown Binghamton, -2 Celsius. And the air quality is reported to be good. AQI, air quality index, is 44 here at WNBF, WNBF.com. So, hospital signage outlining behavioral expectations in a healthcare environment. This is on the internet, so I can't vouch for its accuracy or authenticity. But according to the internet, hospitals increasingly look for ways to deter patients and visitors from engaging in aggressive or violent behavior toward staff. When considering posting signs or other notices referencing policies against violence, hospitals must consider whether they could be interpreted to deter patients from coming to the emergency department where money is to be made. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services previously condemned signs it determined could discourage patients from seeking emergency care in violation of some sort of regulation. So this outfit, I'm not going to identify the outfit because I respect their privacy. This outfit on their website recommends hospitals use positive messages that encourage a healing environment instead of focusing on aberrant behavior by patients or visitors. Let's page down. I didn't even know this was a thing until it was brought up on the program. Similar to signs deterring drug-seeking behavior, our staff has received questions about signs indicating that abusive behavior will not be tolerated or that a facility has a zero-tolerance policy for abuse. Some signs threaten prosecution, reminding patients and visitors that assault against a healthcare worker is a felony. We caution against using language that could be viewed by the federal government to deter people from seeking emergency treatment or anything that would discourage them from remaining for an emergency medical screening exam. Phrasing an anti-violence message in terms of zero tolerance may be interpreted by the federal government to be a violation of a certain regulation. A patient that is incapable or unwilling to conform his or her behavior as requested must still be provided an appropriate medical screening exam. That's a very important sentence. So even if you show up in a hospital emergency department and your behavior is less than optimal, they can't refuse you treatment. And you never know. I mean, the truth is, perhaps because of some sort of medical or other issue, maybe you're not in a position at that point to behave to the basic rules and expectations. Again, I'm keeping the name of this organization out of it because I don't want them to feel that their privacy has been invaded. But it is a health some sort of health organization, you can only imagine. We believe that informing patients and visitors of expected and appropriate conduct in a healthcare facility can be beneficial in changing attitudes and behaviors toward healthcare workers, but those messages must be conveyed in a manner that is less likely to result in federal government scrutiny. In other words, choose your words carefully, because we don't want the feds snooping around here and find out what we're up to. Members are encouraged to use language that describes the facility's expectations for behavior or that educates patients and visitors on the toll such behaviors take on staff. Let's see. Oh, here are some appropriate messages. No, stay tuned. I'll give you some of the appropriate messages. And I don't know. As I said, I fortunately have not had to seek any kind of treatment from an emergency department in a while. But coming up, I will share some of the appropriate messages. Maybe these are messages you have seen if you've gone to an emergency department. Because, again, they want to encourage good behavior, but they don't want the federal government to be snooping around to find out what the heck else is going on there. It's 9:43 WNBF. Good morning. Welcome to our pleasant program. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Bob. This is DJ from Binghamton. How are you today?
Great.
You're having an interesting conversation. I had a relative who went into a local, we won't name, like you said, due to their privacy. And
I was going to say, I don't want to be called on the carpet for a HIPAA violation.
No.
I love hippos, but I hate HIPAA.
I never would do that. I think buffalo are just as attractive as hippos. But anyway, they went in there and acted a fool, and they served them. So the hospital served them, but I don't know if they got charged with a felony. But what they did was they threw them out, and the security kind of beat them up a little bit. That's neither here nor there.
Beat them up just a little bit.
Well,
just a little something, a little something to reinforce that the next time you show up here. Here, you'd better behave as though you're in church.
This is a touch of my appreciation. Go and show your mother. So they went and showed their mother all the bruises, and the mother's like, oh, my gosh, they bruised. And, everybody wants to get a lawsuit. You're not going to be successful in suing anybody if you acted a fool. Now that we clarified that, I love what you were saying. It's very true. What's going on with this FBI director that had 10 years, and now they... Oh,
now he got kicked out? Well, he didn't get kicked out. He got forced out. I got to tell you, that's a good point. Well, he didn't get fired, but he was going to get fired. So
No. That's right. He didn't get fired.
What's his name? Link Ray? I can't think of his first name. Link Ray.
I think it's Ray.
FBI,
Ray,
FBI director. He told his special agents yesterday that he would leave because basically, as I understood it, he wanted to quit voluntarily before they brought him in, as you know, to the HR office, and then, surrounded by 5 burly, beefy security guards. And it's like, thank you for your service. Now get out of here. You got 3 seconds. You got 3 seconds to get your personal effects. Get out of here, and good luck finding a job.
I can't laugh. But he got stung by the stingray that has been indicted 34 times and beat all of the charges. So, hey, you know what? So 7's the number of it is finished is complete. He's finished. But the new one, Cash, can you believe his last name's Cash? It's really Kosh, but they call him Cash. He's Indian.
His first name is Cash.
Oh, he's Italian.
Cash.
Or India.
Cash.
Patel is like...
Cash, like what's his name? Cash Jones.
No, it's Patel, like Gupta in India.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know him that well. I do think that he will be starting, I guess, in January, the first FBI director who's named Cash.
And Bob, I'll tell you this: I'm not happy about this because I don't mock another man's calamity. But when that man is let loose, they're going to get back these people that invaded the pro-life president's, what does he call it, Del Mar-a-Lago in Florida or whatever, and did nothing to the president where they said he cheated and brought in all the boxes and bags. Joey Biden, the big guy. They didn't do anything to him. He got caught with the same.
Yeah, well, I'm more concerned. That's all well and good. I'm more concerned that Kash Patel has previously said he would come after journalists. So you can, that's, I think that's the biggest concern I have when he becomes the director of the FBI, a Quinn Martin production in color. I can only imagine Kash Patel saying, okay, journalists, well, let's not start with the big fish. Let's not go after people like Keith Uberman and Tucker Carlson. Let's start in, I don't know. Where's a good upstate New York City where people would least expect it? Binghamton, New York. Let's make an example of Don Morgan.
You better leave my brother from another mother alone.
In all seriousness, and I'm not joking, if he's going to come after journalists, I will hire the best legal representation I can afford if Kash Patel directs his special agents to come here and haul me in, because I assert categorically I've done nothing wrong.
You haven't. Did you notice that the big famous journalist who pricked and poked the pro-life president and said, you call women pigs, they all turned with him now. So Megan, what's her name? Now she's with him. She spoke at his rally. Megan from Fox.
It's called hypocrisy.
What was her name?
Hypocrisy with a capital H.
You're in good hands, Bobby. I'm praying for you, brother.
Yeah, you got, well, let's hope for the best, because I again will assert I have done nothing wrong.
And if they do come after you, you know what I'm going to tell them? You people make me sick. You leave them alone.
I'll be a martyr. Put a little plaque, a little monument outside the Binghamton Now building. He believed in journalism. We'll rename the Binghamton Now Tower the Bob Building. A sacred site for journalists around the world. It's 9:39. Oh, no, that was 10 minutes ago. Now it's 9:49 with Bob Joseph live here at News Radio. Coming up, maybe I'll give you some of those sample phrases that they use to try to encourage you to behave yourself. I might use some of these phrases, too, for the program. So stay tuned. Some of the key phrases of how they're going to try to get you, John and Jill Q. Public, to behave yourself without getting in trouble from the federal government. This is Binghamton Now on WNBF. 9:53. All right. Here's just one of the helpful messages you might see on the signs at your favorite emergency department. Here's an appropriate message according to the people who have studied the most appropriate messages. This is example 1. Our staff is here to provide the best medical care to you and your loved ones with kindness and respect. We know it can be stressful visiting the hospital. Let us know how we can help. Oh, my gosh. I had that yesterday. I was covering a story, and a guy comes up to me when I'm covering a story and says, can I help you? And as I've said before, if I've said it once, I've said it a trillion times. Anytime somebody approaches you and says, can I help you? The odds are they probably can't and won't. In fact, instead of providing help, this guy was like, he didn't want me around. It was like almost as though I was an enemy of the people. He didn't want to help. Beverly from the town of Dickinson, good morning.
Good morning, Bob. They were talking about a homeless shelter. You know, there's an empty building over on Riverside Drive there. You know, it used to be the Davis College. That'd be a good.
But they're turning that into apartments, market rate apartments.
They are?
Yeah. It just occurred to me over at 307 Conklin Avenue, they used to have a supermarket there. There's a lot of space there. At least for, I'd say, the next 2 or 3 years, use that as a homeless shelter. It's convenient. It's on the bus route. And I
Yeah.
don't think it would take too much work. I mean, the utilities are on, the electricity is on, they're keeping it heated, natural gas, and plenty of free parking. So I say there's an idea.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
I'm here.
but-
What I do here, I think I'm a facilitator. I'm here to help the community.
Right.
All right.
So that's what I thought. That's what I thought might be an appropriate place.
Yeah.
Because I went to school over there because I wanted to be a Sunday school teacher at one time.
Really? At Davis College?
Oh yes, Bob. That was the most beautiful school. But unfortunately, my time was up. And I got a certification for it, but
All right. Well, remember they were going to have Jim Boeheim over there, and he was going to run one of those basketball academies. That would have been fun.
Yeah, I know.
Wild and crazy. Thank you, Beverly. Yeah, suddenly it's radio silence about the squirrel. Everybody was fixated on the squirrel. Then the election was held. And nobody apparently gives a darn about Peanut and his sidekick, Fred not Fred. Was it Freddie the raccoon? So isn't it interesting how the liberal media was fixated for about 10 days on the untimely demise of Peanut the squirrel and his sidekick, Freddie the raccoon. So, oh well. I guess that's how it goes. Peanut the squirrel. So far, nobody seems to be asking Kathy Hochul about it. So instead of getting to the bottom of Peanut Gate and finding out why they killed a squirrel, perfectly innocent and healthy, so they're never going to follow up on that? What are they going to do? Wait till the next election? We wait for 4 years from now to find out what happened to Peanut the squirrel? There's no follow-up. I think Kathy Hochul should call in instead of shopping at Wegmans, or where was she shopping? At Aldi's or someplace. She's shopping at someplace, and I got to tell you, I saw the picture of her shopping and then talking to some woman about the high price of eggs. And I'm thinking, don't pretend that this is how your life usually is. It was a stunt. She shows up in some supermarket, I don't know, Tops, Price Choppers, who knows? Who knows really where? It makes no difference where she was. Kroger, Ralph's, I don't know. Yeah, Ralph's. That would be a good name for a supermarket. Hey, kids, let's go down to Ralph's and get a sub. Let's get a newfangled sub at Ralph's. Or at Kroger. Or Safeway. Or Piggly Wiggly. So anyway, she's shopping, and somebody on Twitter, some reporter, and I don't know if it was Vaughn Golden from the New York Post, someone posted a picture of Kathy Hochul shopping at some supermarket. Yeah, it might have been Piggly Wiggly. Why can't we have a Piggly Wiggly? Anyway. And on Twitter, they show the picture, and it says something to the effect, Kathy Hochul shopping just like anyone else. And so she's standing with some woman who apparently was specially selected. So she's looking at some food, because this was one of those supermarkets with lots of food. And then at a comfortable distance behind her, I'd say about 10 feet away, she's surrounded by a gaggle of reporters and photographers. And Kathy Hochul is shopping just like you or anyone else in New York. Right. Kathy Hochul, grocery shopping. Of course she was. But that's what the politicians do. That's what they do. Set up a photo op instead of just holding some sort of news conference. Let's see. I'm trying to find that picture. Well, maybe it wasn't. Oh, here it is. Well, it's one picture. It says Governor Hochul is here at the supermarket to talk about eggs. And Vaughn Golden has a picture showing Kathy Hochul with a full shopping cart, and it looks like she's looking at some sort of salad mix. She's looking for the bag of salad mix that's not tainted with E. coli. And so you've got a photographer and a couple of reporters in the shot there. And then there's another one with a photographer. Have to admit, they're probably just outside the camera shot was her state police security detail. You would have recognized her security detail. Anybody who was over 6.5 feet tall was probably part of the security detail. And they weren't there really to protect her from the public. They were there to keep certain pesky reporters from asking the governor questions that she didn't want to answer. It's 10:15. Good morning time at WNBF 607-772-1290. If you want some local news, my recommendation is WNBF.com. Take a look for some local news stories. For example, what happened there on Nanacoke Avenue? Even now, I can't tell you why, even though we had some rain yesterday. In the grand scheme of things, it really wasn't that much rain. But as you may have heard here at WNBF News, Nanacoke Avenue was shut down for several hours yesterday because of some sort of problem with the pumps. But nobody knows. Well, yes, somebody knows, but they're not talking. Nobody knows why there is a problem with the pumps at the Nanacoke Avenue underpass, and it happened at a particularly inopportune time. So the pumps apparently started to fail around 6 o'clock Wednesday morning. So good people like you, and even people like me who are going to work, you couldn't go on Nanacoke Avenue because you've got water there, and the pumps weren't working. And the DOT guys didn't want reporters there. It's like, what? You're a journalist? Get out of here. We don't like your type. Oh, okay. But I still don't know why. In 2024, why can't we have a little bit of rain and we can just drive with enthusiasm on Nanacoke Avenue, that part of Route 26? I don't know. And nobody knows. Well, again, to clarify, people who know aren't allowed to say why the pumps just can't pump. Maybe we could get Elon Musk to look into that. 10:18, this is Bob Joseph, 607-772-1290, Binghamton Now, 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. It's 10:21, WNBF with the Binghamton Now program. More examples of appropriate messages for healthcare facilities to encourage patients to behave themselves. Here's another thoughtful sign suggestion from the internet. Again, we were talking earlier, sometimes people don't behave well when they show up at a medical facility looking for help. So what the people who run these places want to do, they want to put up signs basically to tell you to be good and not be so bad. So here's another suggested sign. To receive the best care, be courteous and polite to your care team. Refrain from abusive language or physical threats. You'd use some of these things on the program. For your best calling experience, be courteous and polite to your host. Refrain from abusive language or physical threats. Thank you. From your team at Binghamton Now. Oh, here's another sign idea. Tobacco use is not allowed on the hospital campus to support good health. So just put up a sign that says no smoking or vaping or weed. Tobacco use is not allowed on the hospital campus to support good health. Here's another one. I like this too. For everyone's safety, weapons are not allowed on the hospital campus. Oh, instead of one of those signs that they put up near the school, near the elementary school, where it says no gun zone. For everyone's safety, weapons are not allowed on the hospital campus. You know what they need is somebody not only to put up these signs, but also somebody who would do some recording so they could play it at the facility, like an announcement every 30 seconds, and have these messages rotate. Here's another good message. We partner with our local law enforcement professionals to provide a safe environment of care. I could use that here for listeners. I'm Bob Joseph. I partner with our local law enforcement professionals to provide a safe environment for this talk show. Oh, here's one other. And by the way, I'll look for more suggested signs later, but this is as much as we can do for now. But I like this one. Alcohol or illegal drugs are not allowed on the hospital campus, and visiting patients while under the influence is discouraged. We could use that right here on the program. Alcohol or illegal drugs are not allowed on Binghamton Now. And callers, while under their influence, are discouraged. Wouldn't that be funny if we had to actually screen the calls to find out whether people have been using alcohol or illegal drugs? It's interesting. That sign, though, is interesting because it suggests that you can't use alcohol or illegal drugs on the hospital campus, but you would be able to use cannabis right now because in New York it's legal. So that's what would be called a loophole. So you follow a sign like that and say, oh, I have to leave my beer at home, or I can't bring any of that stuff we were making at our meth lab down by the river, but it doesn't mention anything about cannabis, which is now legal in New York. So apparently if you follow these signs, that looks like one of those loopholes that New York lawmakers would have put in some sort of state law legalizing weed. It's 10:26. This is Bob Joseph live. Coming up later today, Dan Bongino will talk about the future of the United States Secret Service and why he has a better idea of how to run the Secret Service. Dan Bongino will be on from noon to 3 today. I'm sure he'll have a few things to say about Kash Patel and Pete Hegseth. Also from 3 to 6, Sean Hannity will be on the program, or on the station here, WNBF, at 92.1 FM, 1290 AM. Always available on the free WNBF app. Don't get me wrong, it's almost the weekend, Thursday, here at WNBF. Let's take a look at the forecast. It will be cold today, and cold for the next few months. Today's high 30. Tomorrow sunny, high 26, and right now it's 28, minus 2 Celsius at WNBF. It's 10:31. Good morning. You're on the hotline. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning there, Bob. The hotline. Hi, it's Dave from Vestal. How's it going?
Hey, it's going really well. Thank you for asking.
Good. Hey, Bob, I'd like to beat the New York Post to the punch. You know how they are with their headlines, and over the years, a matter of fact, I've come up with stuff that they use. It's like a game. I like playing the game. When you come back from commercial, I know what song you're going to play. lots of the time. How about a game of drones? That's going to come up sooner or later, Bob. They would use something like that. Your show, Bob, even a mini-series. How about a game of drones? Your show.
No, I say it's overblown. I say this whole thing about the drones, I say it's overblown. I'd say the liberal media is just focusing now on the drones because there's not much news going on until the inauguration. So they need some sort of wacky distraction. And somebody, it could have been the New York Post or the New York Times or who knows, or Nora O'Donnell or David Muir, somebody said, you know what? Let's put out stories about these drones and let's make sure that all these stories about drones are accompanied by out-of-focus pictures and video. They're always out of focus, whether it's a video or a still picture, because that's the way to prove that there really are lots of drones that are looking in somebody's backyard to see if they're cooking lamb or chicken speedies.
Bob, what's called? No, lamb or chicken, Bob. But you're making me hungry. I'll take the lamb too. Hey, Bob, but what's causing the big distractions is not getting answers. Come on, Bob. In today's day and age, we can't figure out where they're from, what they're doing. We can't do that. We can't rip one out of the sky, investigate it. But we can do something. We're not getting answers. And
hey, look at what happened with that big police investigation. They spent millions of dollars looking for a maniac. And after all those millions of dollars that were expended by city, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, it comes down to some woman in Altoona who is serving hash browns at Mickey D's. So I'm telling you, I'm not saying there's something wrong with this country. I'm just saying, go figure.
Bob, right, and the federal government is saying, well, don't worry about it. The local law enforcement is investigating it. Bob, we don't need them on it. We need the feds on it. We need to know what is going on, and it should be very simple. That's why it smells fishy. You got to agree. So something.
I wouldn't worry about it. No, I don't think there's anything for you to worry about. Don't you worry yourself right now. This is more about selling newspapers and more about getting clicks. That's the way it looks so far. Now, I am willing to say that the situation could and may change at any moment in time, and when it does, you'll hear about it with breaking news. We'll even, hold on, I'll show you how we'll designate it. If it's really bad, you'll hear this. Are you sitting down?
No, I'm standing, Bob. I'm like you.
Okay, all right. Well, then just get set. Hold on to yourself. Hold on. This is, if there is new development between now and noon about the drones over New Jersey as the game of drones continues, this is how you will hear the designation that it's time for you to protect yourself and your family. Stand by. You'll hear this.
Now, breaking news on your news leader, News Radio 1290 WNBF.
See, that's how you'll know that suddenly we have an explanation for the game of drones.
A mini-series, Bob, is coming up.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. I hope they have it on The Simpsons. I hope they have the thing about, the weird thing about The Simpsons, most things that happen in this country, including the Trump presidency, most things that happen in the world have first been predicted by The Simpsons. So they probably did an episode about 15 years ago about drones, except instead of going over New Jersey, they were probably going over New Hampshire. But still, that's close enough.
Bob,
they said, did you hear that there was a mothership? There's a mothership from Iran, and they got a guy, I think his name is Crazy Eddie, and he's in charge of all the drones over New Jersey. That's a claim that some people made.
You know what? I think there's a senator, somebody in Congress. He says he guarantees. He said he's got information from people higher up that don't want.
People higher up. Right, what right. You mean? The people at the cannabis shop on Court Street? Come on, man.
Bob, how about a mini series on your show? A game of phones.
No, because our phones don't work that well. They're not that reliable. Jeez, Don't.
No.
Now you're just trying to push my button.
Ooh, very good one. Yep.
Hey, that actually sounds like a good game. Push my button. Oh, my gosh. Right. Well, I hope,
sure.
by the way, and I don't mean this in any way that's inappropriate, I hope they get to the bottom of this.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, me too.
Let's hope so.
Right.
And then our long national nightmare can come to an end. It's 10:38 here at WNBF Drone Radio with the host who just drones on and on.
My responsibility is for the American people to have full disclosure. That doesn't mean we tell them military secrets. But when you have something the size of a Chevy Suburban hovering over your backyard, and these reports are real, and they don't deny them. The Pentagon doesn't deny the reports. Nobody does. There's something going on here.
What? Are you kidding me? Why did he say it was the size of a Chevy Suburban? Why didn't he say it was the size of a 1994 white Ford Bronco? Chevy Suburban. Why didn't he say it's the size of Judge Janine's Cadillac Escalade? A Chevy Suburban? No, it's the size of a Cadillac Escalade moving down the highway at 119 miles per hour. See, if New York State didn't investigate that episode where you had a 5,000-pound piece of General Motors goodness hurtling westbound through Tioga County on a Sunday afternoon, if the state didn't investigate that, why do you think we're going to get any sort of answers about all the drones? That I don't know. At this point, I don't know who we could even trust. If Link Ray, the head of the FBI, were to hold a news conference today at 11:30 here on WNBF, if he said that we've investigated these reports of drones over New Jersey and determined that it's actually just a couple of elementary school kids doing a science project, would you believe him? No. I think that's one of the reasons they're not telling us what's behind all the drone or reported drone sightings. I think the FBI and the Secret Service and the state police and other authorities, I think they realize no matter what they say, nobody's going to believe them.
We need to know where they're lifting off of, where they're going to, why they're doing it. We need to solve this problem, and we need to solve this problem now.
Oh, yeah. Well, then we need to be aggressive.
We better be really, really aggressive in deciphering who is deploying these.
Well, I'm telling you, it's really frustrating to me.
We don't see any concern for public safety. Having said that, it's really frustrating that we don't have more answers as to where they're coming from.
Oh, and all right, here's the last word on the drones, at least for this segment. Let's go to the White House to see what Joe Biden's take is about the alleged game of drones over Jersey.
The president is aware, so we're closely tracking the activity and coordinating closely with relevant agency, including DHS and FBI, to continue to investigate these incidents.
All right, so think about this. Why are these reports primarily from New Jersey? How come we're getting no reports of drones from Owego, from Endwell, from Whitney Point? No reports from Castle Creek, no reports from Susquehanna. We haven't even got a single report of any drones over the town of Dickinson. And you mean to tell me that the mothership is only flying drones just over Jersey? Why aren't they flying drones over the Huron campus? I think that they'd get some interesting pictures to see what's left of the IBM buildings. Why aren't they flying drones over the Oakdale Commons to see how that project is going? See, those are the places where the drones, I think, should fly, so you could get some useful pictures for news stories. Don't just fly drones for the sake of droning on. 10:43 at News Radio WNBF. If you have seen a drone over your home or business, please give me a call. The drone hotlines are now open, 607-772-1290. Not only if you have seen or heard a drone over the last 10 days, but if you have an idea of who really, is it really the people on the mothership who are controlling the drones? Or do you think it could be somebody related to Governor Hochul or even Eric Adams or Andrew Cuomo? I mean, somebody has to be responsible if these reports are true. 607-772-1290. This is Binghamton Now, your official source for drone updates. It's 10:47 as we continue to observe the situation. I see Senator John Fetterman is being interviewed live on cable news. So always great to see Senator Fetterman. I think he truly is an American hero. And it was, I think some of our listeners actually have come to appreciate John Fetterman as a man of integrity, and certainly as one of the best U.S. senators from the state of Pennsylvania in many, many, many years. So he was just being interviewed live on cable news. And fortunately, because I'm working here on a talk show, I wasn't able to actually hear what he said, but I was looking at some of the stuff from the closed captioning. So it looked like he was talking about the nominees for the president-elect. So, again, always good to see Senator Fetterman. Love to have him on the program. 10:48. Let's take another call from the hotlines. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. It's Martin. How are you doing?
Oh, hi, Martin. How are you?
Okay. Getting dressed, ready to go to physical therapy in a while.
All right.
Trump, the article from today's paper, Trump details his plan to pardon January 6th defendants. Sometimes you read something and it's just unbelievable. It's like it stops you in your tracks, at least myself. And he's talking about Christian Welker's asking him. She asked him, whether the 900 people who had already pleaded guilty, including those who assaulted police officers, would be considered for pardons. Trump would not rule them out, saying they had no choice but to attack the officers. They had no choice.
What?
That's like
who said that?
Trump.
Donald
right
Trump
here.
said they had no choice but to attack the officers?
Yeah, that's the defense.
Oh.
I mean, that's like if I'm stopped with my friend and they pull him over for drunk driving, and then it's just a fair analogy. I think it is. It's like, well, he fails the test and everything, and it was like, I start hitting him. I beat him up. Well, Judge. I mean, he was going to take my friend to jail. I had no choice. I had to attack him. But to say that, and there's a picture of a beautiful man, Harry Dunn. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a huge 6'7" police officer in Washington there, who's been on TV a lot, wrote a book, ran for Congress. He lost, but he's just, he's as big as any NFL lineman. And of course, but he can't defend himself against thousands of people. He got his butt kicked, and it shows him, with his head down and weeping. And I remember when he did that, because of the PTSD that came back on him. But to say this, they had no choice but to attack. What do you think of that, Bob?
Well, I think that's reprehensible. If anybody, and I'm not talking about a particular person who would say that. I'm saying, generally speaking, anybody who would say they had no choice but to attack a law enforcement officer, I would say you need to retract that statement. because there is no justification. There's no justification for attacking people in law enforcement. And I don't care, Martin, I'm serious. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a liberal or a Republican or a conservative. There is a choice. There is a choice. Do not attack law enforcement. Do not, and by the way, do not resort to violence against law enforcement officers or anyone else. There is a choice. I say, even if you have differences, even if you have disagreements, choose nonviolence.
Yes, you always have a choice, Bob, but to use that as his defense, I mean, this is one of the first things he's going to do. It's a pretty big article, but to say I'm in a hurry, but it's like, and I read that, it's like, this is, and I'll say it again, there is no bottom for that man. Nothing. And then on another page there, I don't know if you're seeing this or not, where he's hawking, again, the grifter hawking this new perfume.
Well, I wouldn't say he's a... Wait, you're saying he is? Or who is?
He is.
He's selling perfumes now?
Yes.
Well, that stinks.
It's called... Yes, it does stink. It's called Fight, Fight, Fight. And he took a picture of when he was in France sitting next to Joe Biden. And it says, a fragrance even your enemies will love.
Oh, I wonder if he got permission to use her image.
Well, I seen it on TV last night. And
well, he can't use her image for commercial purposes without her permission, or at least without the written consent of the commissioner. I mean, that would be, unless, how about this? Maybe secretly she is getting a share of the proceeds.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's something, and I can't put my finger on it right now. There's something interesting, something really interesting about Dr. Jill Biden's behavior in recent days.
Yeah.
Have you noticed? She something, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not even going to play one on the radio. I don't purport to know what's going on with her, but she seems, over the last month, I would say, ever since Election Day, I would say something is really different, profoundly different about the First Lady.
No, ever since the debate.
Yes, that's a good point. Ever since the debate, there's something completely different. And I actually think, and pardon me if I'm barking up the wrong tree, I actually think she now likes Don Trump.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. She likes what?
Donald Trump, the president-elect. I think she actually likes him.
I don't know. I think what...
I didn't say she loves him, and I didn't say that she prefers him to Joe Biden, but don't you get the impression from the way she's been behaving over the last several weeks? Don't you get the impression that she is warming up to Donald Trump?
Well, she got to keep a face on until she can get the hell out of there, and take care of her husband that was unfortunately stood up there. I mean,
well, and that's another point. She should have, we wouldn't be probably at this particular point in our existence as a nation if she had counseled her husband to resign about a year ago.
Even 3-4 years ago, they should have said,
I know. I mean, it was implied that he was only going to serve as president for one term. If he had done the right thing and served just a single 4-year term, and then the Democrats would have had an honest-to-goodness primary, I don't think we would be at this juncture. I think everything would have been totally different.
Yeah, we maybe be looking at President-elect Gavin Newsom or somebody,
Or just as likely, President-elect Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo could have won a primary.
Yeah, or was Hakeem Jeffries? He was on TV.
Hakeem Jeffries would have been a better Democratic candidate than Kamala Harris. And again, I'm not saying anything negative about Kamala Harris. She did the best she could, but she only had just a little over 100 days to slap together a campaign So she did well under the circumstances, but say if the Democrats had gone through the appropriate primary process this year and chosen Hakeem Jeffries as the nominee, my guess is a lot of people from Binghamton would be making plans to travel to Washington to the inauguration next month. So that shows you how history could have been so different.
Yeah. Well, but I just want to leave with that main thing. They had no choice but to attack the police officers.
Yeah.
That's it.
Very, very disappointing. Very, very sad. Thank you. It's 10:57. There's no excuse for violence. Never an excuse. On the bright side, there is good news today. Donald Trump has been declared the Person of the Year by the Time Magazine Company because, of course, they're in the business of selling magazines. So congratulations to Time Magazine for getting some free publicity, as they often do in mid-December, thanks to their Person of the Year promotion. And also congratulations to Donald Trump. I'm looking at the cover of the new issue of the Time Magazine, and it's a beautiful cover. It's a keepsake. So I encourage people to go out to your newsstand and grab a bunch. But pay for them. Please. Grab a bunch, but pay for every copy. This is, let's see, the photograph of the president-elect Platten for Time. I don't know who that is, Platten for Time, or Platon. But it's a wonderful photograph that will appear on newsstands around the world with when the new issue of the Time magazine comes out. Morning, WNBF. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
It's Tom from Endwell.
Yeah, what's going on?
Your last caller, did he miss the 2020 riot? I mean, how many police officers were hospitalized? And the Democratic politicians were championing the actions of all those supporters of rioting, attacking cops, burning police cars, flipping police cars. I mean, it goes on and on. Did he miss that? I mean, really? And I think you need to fact check him a little bit. Like, come on, seriously. And I don't even know why you wouldn't ask him. Be like, did you miss the 2020 riot?
No, I'm not going to relitigate the violence of 2020. That was almost 5 years ago.
Yeah, but you'll relitigate January 6th. That we're learning now that there's a lot of Democratic players in there, FBI agents. Yeah, we're learning that now. Tucker Carlson even was talking about that way back when, and they had to get him off the air. And now he has his own podcast, which he has more followers on his podcast than he did on.
They had to get him off the air because of legal concerns, not because of anything else. Look, you can't, even though. By the way, I appreciate your call. We're heading into the news, so thanks, Tom, for the call. The whole thing about Tucker Carlson, he was the number one rated show on cable news, at least the opinion shows, and they had to get rid of him, and it wasn't because he's a bad guy. It's because of legal considerations. They didn't want to be sued. It's 11 o'clock. As our Thursday morning continues, looking forward to noon when I can go out and start asking a few questions for a couple of news stories that I'm working on. By the way, we received 3 very interesting news tips over the past 24 hours. If you have a news tip, the best way to get it to my attention is to email bob@wnbf.com. Send a news tip. Preferably include your name and phone number, because that would make it much easier for me to get some additional information. News tips are helpful. If you have a news tip, you don't have to provide a lot of information initially. Some of the best news tips are one sentence or 2 sentences, and sometimes it'd be just 10 words or less. But the other thing is, in addition to your news tip, your name and phone number would be really helpful so I can contact you to get more information and then perhaps work on a story. So thank you to the 3 tipsters. Remember, if you are a person who has information about a news story around here, your identity is protected. I'm not going to reveal your identity. As a reporter, I don't have to reveal the names of sources. That's the beauty of America. This is not North Korea. This is not Iran. This is not Russia. This is not Canada. So if you send me a tip, bob@WNBF.com, I'm prepared to go to jail to protect your identity. I don't want to. On the other hand, I heard they have Netflix at jail. So if, in order to protect the identity of a news source, if I must do time on Front Street, while some judge contemplates whether I have to reveal the name of a source, hey, I'll sit there. I'll watch Netflix and chill, or whatever it is they do there. They have Moxie, ice cold Moxie, and chill. Let's see what else is going on here. Oh, I can't believe nobody has brought this up. People talk about the pardons, and everybody is fixated on what Donald Trump will do on January 20th, when he'll pardon all of the bad people from January 6th. Everybody who broke the law on January 6th apparently anticipates a pardon right after the inauguration. And it probably will happen, the way things go. Well, remember, that's what the American people voted for. But here's something that nobody has brought up so far. Joe Biden, who still is president for another month or so, Joe Biden, early today, under the cover of darkness, announced he is granting clemency to nearly 1,500 people. No, they haven't released their names. It doesn't really help me to have an opinion about this story, because the White House has not released the names of the nearly 1,500 people who have been granted clemency by Joe Biden. Wouldn't it be helpful if they're going to put out an announcement like this? Give us the names. Is it somebody I know? Not only that, granting clemency to nearly 1,500 people, he's also pardoning 39 people who are not members of his family. These actions represent the largest single-day grant of clemency in modern history, according to the White House press office. So they put this out early today. Not sure really what time, but it was before sunrise, so under cover of darkness. So I think Joe Biden, if he thinks these people, nearly 1,500 people, deserve clemency and 39 more deserve pardons, he put out a list of names. I'm looking here at the news release from the White House. There's no name. There's not a single name. Of course, we also, and I'm not trying to stir this up again, I'm not going to mention Hunter Biden and his pardon. Let's drop that. That's old news. This is new news. So the question is, who are these people? Who are the nearly 1,500 anonymous people who now have been granted clemency? And then 39 other people who have just been pardoned. Who are they? I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm saying give me the names, and then I can decide if, for myself, if I think they deserve it. They probably do. According to the press release, it says the clemency was granted to nearly 1,500 people who have shown successful rehabilitation and a strong commitment to making their community safer. So if that's true, and I have no reason to doubt the veracity of that statement, so if it's true, just release the names. Is it somebody? It's probably somebody from Endwell, right? what, 2 people from Endwell and 2 people from Vestal? No, 2 people from Endwell and 3 people from Vestal, right? Well, let's have the names. If they're granted clemency, if there are people in Broome and Tioga counties who've just been granted clemency, I think you should send me an email and we'll send over a crew to interview you, because it must be a great honor to get clemency, especially during this happiest time of year, during the happy holiday season. So you were already happy, and then you find out from the U.S. Department of Pardons, the DOP, that the president has put you on the list, so you can go on a shopping spree. Notice I said shopping spree, not a shoplifting spree. Just because you've been granted clemency, it's not something to encourage you to go out and steal stuff. Celebrate and go out and pump some money into the economy. Shop at some of the fine stores here in downtown Binghamton, for instance. And who are the 39 people who got pardons? Did they have laptops? Are any of the 39 people who have now been pardoned, are any of them Republicans? And the biggest question of all, and I submit this to you in all seriousness, between now and January 20th, should Joe Biden pardon Donald Trump? That's a serious question. People are talking about this. Not a lot of people yet, but I think more people will be talking about this in the coming days and weeks as Joe Biden wraps up his presidency. He has an important decision to make. It's a critical decision that could also change the perception that the American people have of President Biden. If he decides to pardon Donald Trump, it could make a dramatic difference in the way most Americans perceive Joe Biden. And it also would have a dramatic effect on his legacy. Because at the Biden Presidential Library, if he does pardon Donald Trump, then they could have a special wing, maybe not a wing, a special room or a collection of some of the stuff surrounding the pardon. Because I don't think it's been done before. I don't think in the United States a president has ever pardoned someone who is both his predecessor and his successor. So think about that. So the question, seriously, and I'll take only serious answers to this question. Seriously, should Joe Biden right now be considering granting a pardon to Donald Trump? And if he does, would that change the way you view Joe Biden? 607-772-1290. You're listening to Binghamton Now. I'm Bob Joseph on WNBF. WNBF, I beg your pardon, Mr. President. I beg. Well, you never know. You never know. If he has a new batch of pardons, if he wants to issue a pardon to me, I will accept it gratefully. I haven't done anything wrong, but still it'd be kind of nice just to have a certificate of pardon from the DOP, from the Department of Pardons. You put that pardon on the wall, like here in the studio, and then when people come in, I could point to that and say, see, I've never seen a certificate of pardon before, have you? It would have the presidential seal. And then December 12th, 2024, I hereby pardon Bob Joseph for anything that he may have said on the Binghamton Now program. So let's see. The New York Times has a story. Let me skim the story. I was referencing the White House news release a moment ago about the pardons. Let's see if the Times has anything more, because I want to know who. I'm really curious, because As you know, with all stories, we have to localize the story. So hopefully there'll be somebody in the tri-state area on that list, and then I can go over to their place of business this afternoon and do one of those one-on-one interviews. You can imagine my questions. So, how does it feel to be pardoned? Those hard-hitting questions. Let's see. Mr. Biden's action is one of the biggest grants of clemency in modern American history. President Jimmy Carter, on his first day in office, issued a pardon that affected more people for men who evaded the Vietnam War draft, but that was what was known as a categorical pardon. Mr. Biden's commutations are for individual cases. Still looking for names. Some congressional Democrats and others have called on Mr. Biden to reduce the sentences of all 40 people on death row to life without parole. Mr. Trump supports the death penalty and restarted federal executions after a 20-year pause during his first term. So again, the Times story says the names of the recipients have not yet been provided. Just find it kind of annoying that they would make this announcement and not include the names, because they must have the names. They must have a list. All they had to do was put an attachment with the list of names along with the press release, and that way I would be able to tell you, who from Binghamton and who from Endwell and who from Vestal is being pardoned. My guess is a lot of them are people who are well connected. Probably mostly Democrats, probably mostly liberals or progressives. Although you never know. There could be some interesting names on the list, but in the meantime, the good news about 1,500 names, about 1,500 people pardoned along with 39 people, 1,500 granted clemency and 39 people pardoned. The odds are pretty good that it's going to be somebody I know. Wouldn't that be funny? It's somebody I went to school with. It's like, oh, Timmy. Well, and that's the problem, too. If it turns out that one of the people on the list of those who have been granted clemency or those who have been pardoned today, if any of those people turn out to people I went to school with, or most likely people I used to work with, or maybe other former reporters, what if it turns out to be, former radio people or TV people or newspaper people, the bad people from the media, people who may have worked here in the past. And then I have to do a story, about somebody maybe that I knew back in the day, back when they were working for local news. It's going to be, I guess I would have to reveal that as part of my coverage. I would still do the story. I would not recuse myself from doing a story, say about a former Binghamton journalist or a former Binghamton radio personality who is on that list from Joe Biden's White House. I still would do the story, but I would probably put something in there, either in the top part of the story or maybe at the bottom, a disclaimer that, yeah, I had the I worked with Mr. Smith back in the day. WENE. Actually, now I'm thinking of somebody. I'm thinking of a couple of people. A couple of people actually come to mind who might have wound up making Joe Biden's list. So, we'll see what happens when they finally release the names. I hope they release the names. Hope it's somebody I know. Because if it's somebody I know, then we could go out tonight and celebrate their good news, their good fortune. It's 1128 WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Bob. It's Dave again.
Yeah. Thanks for checking in. I meant to ask you about this with the pardons today. What do you think of that? Do you know any of the people? 39 people pardoned and nearly 1,500 have been granted clemency. Were you on the list?
I wasn't on the list, Bob.
Darn.
I'm with you. No, but I'm with you on throwing that out there and not telling us who. I mean, that's kind of crazy. But
yeah, what are they thinking? Are they just trying to? You know what? Between you and me, Dave, I think they're just toying with us. You know, I think they put this out there so people like me and Bongino and Hannity and Levin can throw a fit during the day, but we don't even know what we're throwing a fit about because we don't know the names. I mean, if it's somebody we know or somebody we like, that would change the reaction. So here we are just talking, we're basically flying blind because we don't know if we're talking about good people who went bad for a day or bad people who went good for a moment or maybe people who gave $100 to the Kamala Harris campaign or something like that. We don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And then what they're going to do probably this weekend when none of the talk shows are on, then they'll put out the names.
Yeah. What I wanted to ask you, did you see Bill Clinton interview where he's asking Biden for a pardon for Hillary? Bob, I'd like to know.
I agree with that. I heard. I didn't see the interview. I mean, Suddenly, have you noticed suddenly Bill Clinton seems to be everywhere? I mean, does he have some kind of a book out that he's promoting? It just seems like everywhere you go, there he is. And it's like, I thought we got past him. I thought he and what's her name were like hanging out somewhere in New Jersey and flying drones. And it turns out he's doing interviews. Next thing I know, I'm going to get a call from Chelsea asking me, hey, Bob, do you think Dad can come on the program on Tuesday morning? I'll be like, yeah, what the heck? What the heck? It's a slow news month. So, yeah, have him come in.
He got out of the House campaigning for Harris, and he feels pretty good about himself, Bob. He's spry, and he's at it again.
He's and I'll say this, he's very articulate.
Very, very. Hey, what I wanted to mention, main thing, Bob, when you're talking about pardons, I don't think Trump even cares if Biden were to pardon him because he can take care of that himself. The bigger pardon is how about Kathy Hochul getting rid of these New York State cases? How about her pardoning Trump? To me, that would be
Oh no. Oh yeah. No. What here's, and again, I'm not recommending anything to either the president or governor. This is just me speaking as a talk show host. So this carries no weight except it's just for material during the 2025 season of Binghamton Now. So this is doesn't represent my personal opinion. It's just me selfishly speaking as a talk show host. I hope Joe Biden will pardon Donald Trump. And I hope Kathy Hochul doesn't, because that way it gives us a lot of material starting January 2nd. So let's keep our finger crossed.
I see the way you're looking at it, Bob.
Oh, yeah. I'm not looking at what's best for the individuals or the community or the country. No, selfishly, I'm looking for a new batch of material to keep us going from January 2nd to January 20th. So I actually think if Biden pardons Trump, it's going to put it's going to put everybody in an awkward position. Democrats will be appalled, and Republicans, while initially grateful, will be confused. Because if you're a Republican and Joe Biden actually pardons Donald Trump before January 20th, people are going to be conflicted. Because on the one hand, you want to say, well, thanks, Joe Biden, for doing something that's inexplicable and something we didn't foresee. But now we lose an issue because now you've actually done something nice for Donald Trump, and we don't get it.
Right. Hey, Bob, before I go, earlier you brought up a song inadvertently. I don't even think you realized it, but you were talking about Joe Biden, and you said, I know there's something going on. Do you remember that song back in the 80s?
Oh, I know.
I think
I know.
Frida, I think. Yeah. That did that.
Of course.
I couldn't help myself. Hey, have a good day, pal.
All right. Well, of course, I remember. Who could forget? It's 11:33 at WNBF as the Pardon Watch continues. The Pardon Watch never stops until they put out the list of names. Well, speaking, I mentioned news tips a few minutes ago. If you know of anybody here in the Binghamton area, whether it's Broome or Tioga County or any of the surrounding counties, if you know anybody who was pardoned today or any of the nearly 1,500 people who have been granted clemency, if you know their names and phone numbers and social security numbers, send them to bob@WNBF.com, and then after the program is over at noon, then I can go and pay him a visit and do a nice interview to find out what it's like to be pardoned. It's 11:34. You can also call us at 607-772-1290. Again, your thoughts on the juicy prospect that President Biden might consider pardoning Donald Trump at some point in the next couple of weeks. Should he or should he not? Should he avoid the temptation to do something nice during this holiday season? It's a good question. 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, online at WNBF.com. Larry from Kirkwood. Good morning, you're on the air.
Berto, I need a pardon.
Don't we all?
Listen, this is how I see it. I'll give Jeff Smith a pardon. I like Jeff Smith. And you? Nothing.
I've done nothing that's unpardonable.
Just have to bust you a little bit, Bob. Oh, my goodness.
Well, who do you think all these people are? I mean, how? And not only that, it's one thing, who do we think they all are? But more importantly, why didn't they release the names? Why is this a big secret?
Oh, yeah, that's very interesting. I don't know why. Well, I'll tell you what. My hope is that, let's see, how many of the folks he gave clemency to, like over 1,200? I hope those people are the J6ers who got unlawfully put in jail there. I mean, clemency is not the same as pardon, but if we got them that, well, that would be good. But I'm hoping that's the case,
Yeah, what about Joe Biden granting a pardon to Donald Trump? What do you think about that one?
No, he wouldn't do that. Once Trump takes office, that issue's done.
But so you say he should pardon himself?
No, I don't. I mean, I guess Joe Biden could pardon himself, and I think Joe...
Well, why not? Why? How about on the same day? How about this? How about this?
If you haven't done anything wrong, why pardon yourself?
Well, why not? Just to be safe. So Biden, like say later today, like say at 1 o'clock, just over an hour from now, Biden could announce that he's going to pardon Dr. Jill Biden, and then he's going to pardon himself, and then suddenly we've got everybody enraged, Hannity and Bongino and Tucker Carlson and Keith Huberman, everybody's fit to be tied. And then in the next sentence he says, and I'm also going to pardon Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. So then everybody's conflicted. So at first everybody is unhappy about something, and then the more they think about it, it's like, wait, he gave everybody at least something to be happy about. Dr. Jill Biden could be pardoned. The president could pardon himself, and then he could pardon Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. I'd say that's a win-win. Well,
I was going to say it.
Well, here's my question, a simple question. If he were to announce that, he could pardon himself and his wife, and then he could pardon Mr. Trump and Mr. Vance. The question you have to ask yourself is, who would lose? Nobody is a loser there. Everybody wins.
Well, the fact is he's the president, and that's the power that the Constitution gives him.
I know. Why doesn't he? How about this? A blanket pardon for everybody. Every American who's alive as of 11:59 a.m. on January 20th, 2025 is pardoned.
Now, there's a lot of them that are downright evil. So
well, I know, but I'm saying That's the power of the presidency, because whoever came up with the people who wrote the rules, I don't even know what their names. That's another thing. We don't even know the names of everyone who wrote these rules, but whoever wrote the rules about allowing the president to pardon people, they didn't put any restrictions, so why not? Why not just say, as of 11:55 a.m. on January 20th, 2025, if you're alive and anywhere in the United States, any of the 50 states or the territories or possessions, you are hereby pardoned. Give everybody a clean slate.
Give Joey Bag of Donuts a pardon.
Yeah, man.
Dan Bongino would say.
Yeah. I'd say no, I'm serious. Give everybody, even Bongino.
You know, there's something that I don't get. I mean, why would you want to issue a pardon to somebody who hasn't been convicted of anything? I mean,
but you have to sometimes think about preemptive pardons. One of the reasons why some Democrats are encouraging Joe Biden to pardon, like, who is that? Oh, Adam Schiff down in California, and some of the other people who've been on Donald Trump's case for the last 20 years. So some of those people are worried that the new administration might wind up trying to prosecute them. So that's why they would like preemptive pardons just in case.
I got to admit, that's the one thing I'm very amazed by. Adam Schiff denied. I mean, he said, if he tries to pardon me, I won't accept it. I mean, of anybody in the world.
It doesn't make any difference. It's not up to you to accept or reject it. You can say, anybody can say, I'm going to say here on the radio, if Joe Biden pardons me, I'm going to reject it. Doesn't make any difference in the eyes of the law. I could reject it for 3 hours on a radio show, and it's still in effect. You could say you reject it. Doesn't change the fact that you're pardoned.
Well, I think that Adam Schiff is a fool because...
Well, he's a great guy. He's a great American.
He's done immense lying. It's that man, and he should want a pardon to cover his Paduchki.
Well, I say every member of Congress should ask for a pardon just to be safe, not because they've done anything wrong, but in this hypercharged atmosphere where the law has been weaponized, I say, in an era of lawfare, I say all elected officials, all candidates, all radio show hosts should ask for a pardon just to be safe.
Oh, well.
Just to be on the safe side.
All right, Bob.
All right. I'm just saying, hey, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. It's 11:45, WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
This is Reverend Ron from Binghamton.
I beg your pardon?
Reverend Ron.
Oh, Reverend Ron from Binghamton. Good morning.
Yes. I'm here to grant general absolution to all talk show hosts. I hope you can accept that for all your past. What
are you recommending for penance?
For penance, you're going to have to watch MSNBC.
No, Father, forgive me. No, Father Ron. I don't anything but that. I don't want to watch Rachel Maddow and the coffee clan in the morning. Let me watch Fox. Let me watch the Fox Breakfast Cast.
Oh goodness! You don't want to watch Morning Joe?
No. Oh, but by the way, this morning I did. You know how on the program I make it sound like I don't watch Morning Joe? Well, during a commercial break, Gayle King had to take a break so she could call Oprah to get her marching orders for the rest of the show. So during that break, I think it was after the weather, from the weather deck. So then I switched over to Morning Joe to see if they were talking about the Mets prospects for the World Series, and instead, believe it or not, Kathy Hochul was on. So I watched that, and she's talking about the weather, and I'm saying, of course she is.
Well, Bob, all of this, and I've been listening to all of the pardon talk, who should be pardoned, who should not, who should do the pardoning, all of this. It does indicate, and I'll use this term, it does indicate that Washington and the people who are elected and work there and the people around them and the lobbyists and et cetera, it does indicate that is quite a swamp. If all of these people need pardons and preemptive pardons, you just say, what is going on there that is so pardonable? It's scary, and I don't like it. So that's why at least I wanted to pardon and give absolution to all talk show hosts, and I hope you feel better throughout the day that you've been given this general absolution.
Thank you. I feel a lot better. Thank you, Ron. 11:48 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. My name is Jim Hildreth. Jim from Whitney Point.
Hi, Jim. What's on your mind?
They're talking about pardoning, and if you haven't been convicted, how can you be pardoned?
It's called preemptive pardon. So just in case, because at some point, an overzealous prosecutor could decide to go after you, maybe for political reasons or maybe for personal reasons. Maybe it's somebody that you cut off in traffic over on the Parkway, and they hold a grudge.
I don't think it works that way, so.
All right. Well, the way I understand it, because remember a few days ago when Hunter Biden got pardoned, that wasn't just for the misunderstanding he had with his taxes and that form about having a gun. That goes back to January 1st, 2014. So that is a good pardon. That covers him for nearly 11 years.
Yeah, but he was convicted, so.
Yeah, but it includes things for which he hasn't been convicted yet. Apparently, and Joe Biden didn't disclose, and Hunter Biden hasn't explained either, apparently they're afraid that something he did since January 1st, 2014 could lead to prosecution this way, just in case some prosecutor was thinking about going after Hunter Biden. That makes it a moot point. I mean, a prosecutor could try to prosecute, but it would be for naught because he's already been pardoned.
I understand.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yep, bye.
11:50 WNBF. The Pardon Watch never stops. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. This is Dave from Binghamton, but actually in Bethel right now.
Yeah,
but not at my chicken joint. But.
I was going to say, did you get any of those hot chickens? I stopped in yesterday. I gave myself a tour of the place to see if they were cooking up any hot chickens. And although everything is in place, the kitchen is all set up. They were not frying up any hot chickens as of about 23 hours ago.
Yeah, well, they did have a food delivery truck out back when I passed by yesterday. So
I'm going to head back.
Almost there.
It's almost lunchtime. I had a good conversation with the guy. I won't name his name, but the guy and I talked. He wasn't authorized to speak, and he wouldn't allow pictures. I'm thinking, because I told him, I said, look at this place. It's beautiful, and he agreed. Reminds me a lot. They opened up a hot chicken place here in my neighborhood last January. The interior, to a large extent, it has the same vibe. Apparently, Nashville hot chicken joints have the same basic vibe. So I think people are going to enjoy the chickens. And did I mention they're also going to be open on Sundays, selling chicken sandwiches on Sundays, no less.
Yeah, so that they got the head start on Sunday sales. So we'll see when another one from the South moves up.
Oh, yeah.
if they ever change.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to my friend over at Key Bank to see what she says about that. It's like, oh, Bob, come on now. And then she's like, but I already have my certificates for 52 weeks of free chicken sandwiches. And it's like, you weren't supposed to say that.
First in line, I guess, when you're already there. But I was actually calling about something else. Earlier, the comment a caller made in regards to visiting an ER and how, to skip the waiting room and take an ambulance. And the important thing to remember is they still triage you if you are taken in by an ambulance and it's something that is not truly emergent. They will stick you in the ER waiting room anyway, so it saves no time and just wastes resources. So, taking an ambulance for something that is not an emergency is not the best idea.
All right. I agree.
And the idea about ER-only locations, down in Myrtle Beach, there's actually a spot where they built the ER first, and I guess it has like 17,000 patients a day or a year at that location. And they're now building a 48-bed hospital after the fact attached to it. So it's kind of an interesting, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Yeah. Obviously on the Parkway, it's the chicken, but Myrtle Beach, it's the egg.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Yep. All right. Enjoy.
Thanks. 11:54. There's a story from Vestal making contemporary news. Somebody wrote, Chuck wrote, we'll just say Chuck from Shenango. I have no idea where Chuck is. Chuck from somewhere. Rumor has it, this is about a new holiday. Rumor has it Biden will decree January 6th to be a new federal holiday. Insurrection Day. All government facilities will be closed. It's probably not a bad idea. Just close them down preemptively. Make sure everything is locked up. Maybe board up the windows just in case, at least at the Capitol, for those who want to celebrate good times. Insurrection Day. What else is going on here? John from Port Crane, but Trump saying they had no choice. Bob, they had no choice is in reference to pleading guilty. Many were offered 2 years versus 30 years, hence they had no choice. Misinterpreted, misrepresented. Funny how you let that go, but call out someone who speaks ill of Joe, Kamala, or other Dems. Thanks, John. Port Crane, they had no choice. Yes, in America, we have no choice. If you want cable TV, you have no choice. I love cable TV. You know me. I love cable TV. But because this is America, I have no choice. If I want cable TV, I have to go with one company. So I have no choice. So there. That's... let's see. Oh, Gary writes about Joe Biden and Donald Trump. She does not like him, but she is acting with class in her position as First Lady. This is unlike the former president and his wife, who wouldn't attend the inauguration after he lost the 2020 election. By the way, he still, even to this day, more than 4 years later, he still refuses to admit that he lost the 2020 election. I thought it would have been... At this point, now that he has successfully won 4 more years in the White House, I thought it would have been a very magnanimous gesture for him to finally concede, albeit 4 years late, but at least concede. Yeah, it turns out, now that I think about it, now that all the judges have ruled and all the evidence has been submitted, yes, I did lose the election. Sadly, I lost the 2020 election. So here on December 12, 2024, I concede the election and I congratulate Joe Biden for his win. But obviously that would be too much to expect. Yeah, too much to expect. Well, I'm sure between now and tomorrow's program, there will be additional strange things. Hopefully more drone sightings. Hopefully maybe a few drones over Broome and Tioga counties. Please, I implore you, if you see a drone over your home, please take a nice picture and video. Remember, not vertical. And then send it to bob@WNBF.com. I'm Bob Joseph. I'll catch you tomorrow right here on WNBF.